first time podcasting in a while.
Yeah. You're going noteless.
Noteless.
I've got something.
You said you were bringing your A game.
We'll see. You want me to start it? I'll open this up. Welcome back. The Coaching Life podcast did not go away. Well, I guess we did go away for a little bit. Yeah, we just didn't go away forever. That's the key. So we're back. We're back. You know, Pat, the last time. Well, by the way, not only are we back, we're back in the same room.
Yeah,
listen to his voice, folks.
Hello, everyone.
Man, that's like butter, isn't it? That is like butter. You have a voice that needs to be in studio.
It's because that's the only way it can hide my hick accent. That's what.
Oh no! You know, the last time we recorded together, because I snuck one in on you there in June.
You did. You dirty balled me. I haven't forgot about that. We'll get back to that sometime.
Okay. Well, the last time we recorded together, this is episode 94, season 5.
Season 5.
By the way, brand new season coming in strong here, the fall of 2021. Back in studio, so we figured, you know what, this is the perfect time to start season 5 because we got all kinds of people traveling to work and back, school and back, kids on school buses with AirPods in going, where in the heck is the Coaching Life podcast?
Right, exactly.
I need something to listen to here on my way to school.
I've got that a lot.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Every day. I actually did. I tell you, this summer I did get that. Where was I? I was speaking somewhere, or doing a training. What was I doing?
Your coaches meeting? I feel like I remember.
Yeah, I can't remember where I. Oh, it was here. It was at Scripps. I was part of a mentor group where we have communication fellows who come in and do these different projects, and these fellows are from high schools all over the state of Ohio. It's sort of an initiative to bring in school teachers in Ohio and help them understand what they can do in their schools and in their classrooms to engage in the kinds of majors that we have here at the Scripps College of Communication. And so I'm one of the mentors for this group of 6 or 7 school teachers, and some of them were coming in and their projects, 2 of them, their project is to do a podcast. They want to build a podcast studio in their school, and they're going to start a podcast class, and they're going to do podcasting.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's really cool. And so that was the area that I got assigned to. I guess they think just because you have a podcast that you know what you're doing. So I got assigned to be a mentor in that area.
You've got experience.
We do have some experience. Yeah, we got 93 episodes of experience. So that's a little bit. Well, anyway, we were sitting in this room talking about, podcasting and, the kinds of things that we do on our podcast, and it's based on the content that we provide versus something like, criminal podcast that's kind of built like a show, or, some of the true crime podcasts where you kind of listen and there's maybe, short seasons, things like that. And I said, ours is more geared toward, coaches and moms and dads who have kids that are growing up playing sports and stuff like that. And so we were talking about, and eventually we get to what should we title it? Is our title catchy? And I said, well, we just kind of titled ours based on a book that I wrote, but it also kind of fit what we discussed. And I said, we call ours The Coaching Life. And one of the ladies from the Akron, Canton area, she said, you're the Coaching Life podcast?
No.
And I said, yeah. And she said, one of my students listens to that podcast every week. And I said, it can't be ours. There's no way it's ours. And so I showed her the icon. She said, that's it. That's the one. So it is true, Pat. Students are listening to our podcast in their school classes.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we're providing education.
I guess you could say that, yeah. Some sort of education, right? A right way or a wrong way. Both of it's good experience.
Oh yeah.
I've had some people reach out to me and say that they've missed us. That and one person in particular that I really appreciate, just kind of, it wasn't even about the content. It was just he's a guy that grew up in the area, that's from the area, and he's moved away, lives in Florida now, and he said, I miss hearing some familiar voices.
Wow.
And I thought, that's good stuff, and it kind of convicted me a little bit. But
Yeah.
it's been a while, but I'm gonna send him a picture here of
us right here, right
us
now, live.
I got a
There you go.
picture of the studio that I'm gonna
Yeah.
send to him and say, hey, it's on its way. We're back, man.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, I started saying the last time we recorded together, which would have been
Not a great day.
me in the home studio and you on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, no,
Remotely together.
Wow, the last time we recorded together in this room was a year and a half ago.
Isn't that something?
I don't even remember what it was. March something of 2020.
Yeah.
But then even recently, the last time we recorded together, where I was in a studio and you were zooming or teams videoing in, was May 27th. The week of May 27th
Wow.
was our last. I
Really?
didn't realize it was that far back.
Me neither. So
that is 12 weeks.
We skipped summer season is what we did. Where
We did.
we were out coaching.
You had to listen to reruns. You know how I grew up watching Dukes of Hazzard.
Right.
And that was showing my age there a little bit. Dukes of Hazzard. The Incredible Hulk was on. Before that, like 8 o'clock, and then at 9 o'clock, the Dukes of Hazzard came on, and then after that was Dallas. But I wasn't allowed to stay up and watch Dallas. I thought that was boring anyway.
Who wonder what's that?
Yeah, it was pushing it to have my parents let me stay up until 10 to watch the Dukes of Hazzard. But we all liked that show.
Bo and Duke, though, right?
Bo and Luke.
Luke,
Duke
with
Uncle Jesse.
What were the spinoff? What were their names? The cousins that moved
Oh.
in. Yeah, I know.
That's
no
like-
one would watch that.
That's like the Sandlot sequels. I don't know. But and you watch the seasons, and that's the new season starts in the fall, and you're pumped, you're excited about it. Then you got a break there for Christmas, New Year's, and then they kind of finish that season in the spring, and then when the summer comes, you're just left watching reruns. And so
Right.
I guess we left people to listen to reruns of the Coaching Life.
Yeah,
podcast.
I think so. I talked to a lot of people that weren't caught up anyway, though.
That's true. Yeah, I heard that too.
But then
that
I
as well.
did talk to some people. Said, "Okay, I'm caught up now. We
Yeah,
need
let's
a new,
go.
But what?
12 weeks worth. They had had some time to listen. 12
Had some
weeks.
time.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's kind of like the culture now, because you have Netflix and Peacock and all these things that when they have the original TV shows, and they'll release them all 13 episodes at one time. So I know that's
true.
something that I've noticed.
Yeah.
At least I guess I've done it with a couple shows, and I know my kids do it a lot. That they'll just over the summer they'll just sit down and they'll watch a whole season of All Americans.
It's easy to do that.
Oh yeah,
My
absolutely.
daughter likes that.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Kids are
I've
into
never
that.
seen it.
Football drama.
I'm
football.
a Cobra Kai guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Wait for
Karate
season 4.
Kid. Heck yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Silver's coming back.
At some point, Johnny and Daniel are going to work together. It's been building up to it, right? And it's got to
Man,
happen.
I love the Phil Collins music
yeah.
to end
Oh,
to
yeah.
end the last episode. That was amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
Good
great
stuff. Shoot. Well, people might be wondering, well, what's the topic of the day? What are we going to talk about today?
Me too.
Yeah, you're coming in blind as well. The topic is, can you find a place to park on Ohio University's campus now that we've brought students back? We're expecting faculty and staff to come back to work, and it hasn't been like this for a year and a half.
I tell you, it's amazing how perspective changes, because that's exactly what happened to me this morning. And I had a plan. I knew exactly where I was going to park to get to the studio today, and I pulled into that parking lot, and there wasn't a spot open. And I remember, 2 years ago, the sick feeling in my gut that I would have when one of those spots weren't open. I didn't have a sick feeling today,
I know.
Coach. It felt really good.
I
I was
know.
really happy to see it.
I texted you the other day when I was up here on the weekend, because it was welcome weekend, and I've been coming into this building for a year now every day, and there were days when I would come in here and I would plop down right over there on the other side of this lobby and sit and make that my office, just because the dean's office suite, where my office normally is locked on the outside. The outside door was locked, and you would have to know how to get a hold of me if you needed me for something. And I came in here just to be available for faculty or staff if they needed anything. Access issues, they have projects they're working on that they need facilities to come and tend to. And so I would just plop over there with my laptop and just hang out. And there were days when I saw, and there was some Bobcat student orientation, things like that, where high school, incoming freshmen were coming in there. The month of June was a little bit lively, but there were days here in the last few weeks where I saw maybe 2 people all day long.
Yeah.
All day long, from about 9 o'clock to 4. I didn't stay all day, because we were still technically partly working remotely and things like that. But that gets discouraging.
Yes.
It really does. When you work in a place where the energy is built around people, face-to-face interaction, relationships. And so when I came up this weekend and the students were coming in, and I know not everybody feels the same way, and that's fine, but this is the way I feel.
Yeah.
I want them here.
Sure.
I want to I want to interact in person. I did take the vaccine, and I'm confident in that science, and I want to interact with them in person. And many of the ones that I interacted with felt the same way. So I looked out this window here across the green. Our building's located right on the main green here, and they were having the student organization fair on Sunday afternoon, and it was like a festival out there. I mean, it was absolutely incredible to see, because I haven't seen anything like that here in a long time. OU Marching 110 came up and played. It started pouring down rain. It was beautiful. Beautiful day, 95 degrees. And then all of a sudden this little cell of rain cloud comes over and just starts dumping on them. And you would think that they're just going to shatter now. They didn't move. I mean, they stayed out there and danced in it. The DJ started playing Luke Bryan's rain makes corn, corn makes whiskey, whiskey makes my girl kind of frisky. Rain is a good thing. And they were dancing out there. I'm like, just right on cue. Well, then the Marching 110 comes up, because they were scheduled to play. And I thought, oh, maybe the band's not going to play now. No, not, their
Not
character.
the best band in the land.
That's right. Their character is, that's what they want, man.
Yeah.
They got right over there, and they started doing all those, those dances and things that they do. And those students went nuts. It was really, really cool to see. And I made sure that I mentioned that to all of them that I saw later too, and told them I was really glad to see you guys out there enjoying yourself. And they're like, well, we're hungry for it.
Absolutely.
We're hungry for it,
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned over this period of time is that I think it's not something that I've learned, but it's something I've gained a little bit more of, is a little bit of hope in humanity, maybe a little bit of hope in our country. It's been bleak to me. I haven't had a lot of faith in it just because of the people. But
Sure.
I think you say not everyone wants it. I think everyone does want it. I think it's in our nature to want to be around other people. And that's what I've kind of felt over the last few weeks. I've been able to get back to church, and I've been able to be in groups of people. And I'm not a person, Coach, that likes groups of people. I never have. But just walking up here today, making the walk uptown, and just being kind of surrounded by students, and that, you used the word energy. That's exactly what it gives you. I just think as a species, we're built to be around one another, and I think it's a natural thing, and it's something that we can't avoid. And ultimately, no matter how far we fall away, no matter how bad things get, the circle's going to complete, and we have to get back to one another some way or another.
We do.
I think it's we're required. It's something we need.
We were made for it. Yeah. We were absolutely created for it. And that, I'm with you. I told you the other day, I'm committed to making a habit of bringing the energy.
Yeah.
Because I can see the hunger in these students. I have a student here who's beginning her junior year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she told me yesterday she feels like a freshman. She's never taken a class here online or on campus.
That's a good
All
point.
of her classes she went to a different university for a semester, and then was sent home. Yeah. And so finished that year online, and it was during that time she decided to transfer here.
Yep.
And so she started OU classes online, and has never had a class here. And she was nervous. She was walking around. She looked like what freshmen look like walking around here, and she's a junior. And some of my ambassadors told me the same thing. I had an ambassador who come in my office yesterday, and he said, yeah, it's wild. He said, I feel like. He said, I had one semester of classes here, but I'm a junior right now. And so I'm doing junior things, but I feel like a giddy freshman here on campus, So they recognize that their time is short. If they're going to graduate in 4 years, they recognize my time is short here, and I want to enjoy. I want to enjoy this time that I have to be a college student. And so I'm committed to being one of those people that's going to try to normalize that experience for them, because I know they're going to get plenty of negative driven messages that they're going to come, COVID mandates and vaccine messages, mask messages, things like that. And I'll leave all that to someone else. That's somebody else's job, right? They can handle that. They need to know that there are some people here who feel the way they do and are very, very glad that they're here. And we want them to be here. I've heard so many people say, "Oh, we don't want these students here." A lot of people who live in town also they case numbers are going to go through the roof and things like that. And what does that sound like to a college student who's coming to get their education and enjoy what you got to enjoy back 20 years ago or whatever, right? And we're going to get all kinds of letters and emails probably. Well, we're living in a different time, man. It's a pandemic. Actually, our listening audience is probably not going to send us.
Yeah, I would say you're probably right for the most part. I don't know. We are listened to in multiple countries, so who knows what the.
Hey, yeah. We got any people in Sweden who listen to us, by the way?
I don't know. And I haven't checked up on Sweden in a while, to be honest with you.
They probably don't care that we haven't checked up on them. They're just,
no, they definitely don't.
They're getting up in the morning and going to work, and then they're going to the bar on the way home.
I think they have. I don't know if anything's changed. I've kind of
who knows?
Went blank there. Yeah,
that's right.
I'm gonna check in on them, but
right.
I hope they're doing well. Appreciate them, but
we're just going to embrace that libertarian lifestyle. Well, you just do you, I'll do me. I don't really give a crap what anybody else does.
Yeah, well, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but that's a mentality that we have, that we teach, that we coach in baseball games.
That is true.
In sports, because there's things that happen to us during games that we can't control.
Right.
And it zaps the energy from you if you let it. Mm-hmm. If you let it, right?
Man, that is, you're exactly right.
That's the key. How are you going to let it impact you? How are you going to respond?
Mm-hmm.
These are all life lessons. They're things that we've talked about over the first 90 plus episodes of the Coaching Life, and sometimes it's hard to apply it.
Absolutely.
But if anything, we've been given the opportunity to practice that.
We have. What have you done in these last 12 weeks? That's 12 weeks of no recording.
That's a deep question, Coach. I'm not for sure I'm prepared to answer that question.
What have we
candidly.
been doing these last 12 weeks? Well, we've done baseball. You and I did a little baseball together.
We had baseball.
Yeah, and we've done life. I tell you, when I talk about life, I'm talking.
You have
married off a son.
You did. Yeah,
we helped him and his wife move to West Virginia. They bought their first house. Both got great jobs. He's a college coach in addition to being a professional strength trainer, and she's teaching first grade elementary school in Buchanan, West Virginia. They're living it, man. They're really enjoying. We're really proud of them.
You know what I've been doing? I've been playing a lot of Fortnite.
What's that?
I wish we could have captured that expression.
Yeah.
You don't know what Fortnite is?
I think, now listen, I really think I do. Are the Fortnite characters, would they remind you of the little RBI baseball characters back on the Sega Genesis?
No.
Oh.
I think you're thinking about Roblox.
I don't know.
It's Fortnite's this game on, it's on a bunch of
systems.
Systems, platforms. That is free, but they get you to buy stuff that makes you look different and do different things. So, yeah, I don't know. I've been dabbling in that a little bit. I hadn't played video games in about 10 years. Ever since I've played video games. It's something that I've always done. But
so Jeremiah's whooping your behind in Fortnite.
You have no idea how true that statement is. I mean, it's not even close. And not only does he whoop my butt, but he tells me how bad I am, and it's embarrassing and humiliating.
Smack talk.
But I get the opportunity. It's fun because I get to play with some kids that I've coached and kids that.
Because you're actually video games these days. You're actually playing with people outside your home too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You play online.
I sound like a fool. I know to everybody who listens who knows video games. You're like, is he really serious? Does he really not know that?
I would say
stuff?
most of our listening audience doesn't play video. Maybe they do. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know.
Oh yeah, you'd probably be surprised.
Demographic stats for us, but it's fun to interact with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I experienced recently was I went to the Meigs County Fair, and a few days I went out several kids that I had coached in the previous season, track athletes, baseball players,
Yeah.
came up to me and talked to me, and it's just amazing how great that makes you feel.
Yeah.
When you're a coach, because the thing is, what people don't realize, if you're not a coach, is there's a tough reality to coaching, and that reality is you develop these relationships with these kids, with these people, and by and large, those relationships end, in a very short period of time.
Yeah, they really do.
And you don't get that interaction anymore. And you start over, you develop new relationships, but it's when you think about that, it's very difficult. It's a tough thing to deal with, and it's just something, it's just a matter of the coaching life, right? That
Without a doubt,
you can't get away from it. But to be able to go out and just to see some of those people that you may never coach again come up to you and talk to you, it's a great feeling. It really provides you that energy that you mentioned before.
It does.
And it makes you feel really good.
It really does. We started a team this summer. You and I did, and it was a 15-year-old team that we wanted to put together to kind of help develop a little, a better understanding of competitive, higher competitive baseball. I think than what some of these kids may be used to playing, and I didn't know. I knew two of them. I mean, I knew two or three of them coming into it, and now I find myself, looking into, a couple of kids play football, looking into how are they doing. I texted one of them and said, hey, make sure you send me your fall schedule. I want to come watch you play in the fall, things like that, and yeah, I mean, you start. It's not just coach them to play a game. I mean, I actually kind of like these kids.
Right.
I want to keep up with their lives and things like that.
Absolutely.
Texted two of my high school players yesterday to tell them that it was the first day of college class. And one of them, his mom texted me back and said, hey, thanks for checking in on so-and-so, And I said, oh yeah, I said, I'm really excited to hear, it takes me back 4 years to think about them moving their son into college, and I remember what that felt like, and I remember what he felt like, because I don't know what he felt like, but I remember what the expressions that I saw on his face and things like that. And she said, yeah, he texted me the other day and said that he went out with a bunch of the baseball guys and had a quote unquote practice. They're not allowed to practice this week. They have a rule where they won't let the baseball coaches touch them for a week and let them get acclimated to class. Things like that.
They had some unstructured free play.
So they do. That's exactly what they do. I mean, they get to campus, they're ready to roll, and so they go out there and she said, I asked him, is the pitching faster than what you're used to? And he said, very. I said, yeah, there's no more 70, 75 miles an hour. He's going to see 85 every day. I mean, he's going to see the best pitcher we had on our team, Matty Blanchard. He's going to see Matty every day, basically. And I said, but he'll adjust to it. You just will. I mean, he's quick enough. And she said, oh yeah, he said he got a hold of a couple. I believe it.
That's awesome.
Connor's got a quick bat.
Oh, is that who it was?
That's who it was, yeah.
Yeah, he does. Stays inside the baseball. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, very well. One of the things I think that I learned thinking on the topic of what have we learned here in the last 12 weeks or so.
Yeah.
While coaching that team, I think we learned a lot about our approach to doing something like that. And it's weird because different parts of the state just are different. I mean, there are a lot of differences in why kids do and families do what they do. And we've always said that the southeast part of the state seems to be behind in a lot of ways, and particularly in the travel ball area, things like that as well. And it's tough. And people assume it's just because of economics. But one of the things that we ran into was we had a couple kids that couldn't play because they live on farms.
Yeah.
They've got chores.
Yeah.
It's not because they don't have money. They've got money. They got stuff to do.
Too busy.
Right.
Committed.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm up in the morning. This is a really interesting thing too, Pat. And I'm going on all kinds of tangents, but
I figured that's how it'd go today. So that's good.
But I told April, I said, I've got two big things coming up this weekend. And one thing I've got coming up this weekend is on Saturday, I'm meeting with all of the athletes in East, the students who want to play baseball.
Yeah.
At Eastern High School and junior high. So junior hires and high schoolers are invited to come and be part of our strength training program that we are beginning next Monday, 6 a.m. before school, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They're going to hit it.
Baseball team strength training?
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. Off season, preseason, in season, we're going to be hitting it. And so we're going to meet on Saturday so that I can, one, go over all the goals. This is what we're trying to accomplish when we do this. And these are the lifts that we're going to use, the exercises we're going to use. This is why we're starting with this. Like I've consulted, I now have an expert in the family that I can consult.
Yes,
so I talked to Brock the other day and said, okay, this is the makeup of our kids. This is what I want to try to accomplish. What do you recommend? And he was like, and so it's going to be very, very simple. We're just going to work on building a foundation of strength, and so because of that, we're going to be doing the major lifts, regularly, squat, deadlift, press, clean, pull. And so I want to make sure that they know how to do those properly. I want to make sure that they know how to spot each other on, which lifts we're going to be spotting each other on and things like that, and how to do that, where to position yourself, and when to help. Talk about journaling and keeping a log of everything you do, because we're going to press ourselves to increase weight every day and all this stuff. So we're going to have that meeting on Saturday. One of the things that I noticed in talking already, kind of giving the details and the information about doing this new strength training program, is when I mentioned the time that we're going to do it, 6 a.m., right, before school. I did that. This is not unusual for me. That's when I had our strength training program when I was at Athens. It took me a little bit of convincing. I had to pull out some persuasion to get the kids to come, because they were like, "What are you kidding me? 6 a.m. I'm not getting up at 6 a.m."
Yeah,
it's that's that, or getting up earlier to start at 6 a.m. Right? Because and then once they experienced it, they actually loved it.
Absolutely,
because one, they were more alert and energetic all day long.
Absolutely, yes.
On those days, they did not fall asleep in class.
No,
and when the school bell rang at 2:35 and school was over, they were done. They can go home, do whatever they wanted to do. We didn't have they didn't have to come back and lift at 4 or 6 later that night. We did it in the morning. They got it out of the way. So there were a lot of reasons they learned to love it, but it took some convincing.
Sure.
I've not heard a single thing from this group of people at this new school district.
Really?
And I told April, I said, I wonder. I mean, like I say like 6 a.m. They're like, okay.
Yeah.
They're up at 4 a.m. anyway.
Right.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Or none of them's coming.
But that's the issue. Yeah. We'll find out this weekend.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the reaction has been different. There hasn't been as much of a 6 a.m. It's just been okay. Yeah. Even my coaches. I had coaches at Athens that were like, "I'll try to make it if I can." They were great guys, but like all the coaches texted back and said, "Well, I gotta actually get on the road to work at 6:15, but I'll stop in on my way, and say hi."
Wait a second. You're telling me Coach Huffman didn't have a problem with waking up that early?
He's one of the ones that said that he will already be 3 coffees deep.
But actually, I know Coach gets up in the morning and he goes through a workout, and part of that workout is he's a hanger.
Hang and pull up, right?
Yeah. He likes to hang and just hang with his hands,
That's good.
Just with these,
grip strength,
grip balls or whatever they're called. And
Yep.
I'm always impressed with he sends me sometimes he sends me his workouts and tells me what he's been doing. I'm like, man, I don't know how you just hang like that. He loves it. He eats it up.
Well, that's something that was part of our repertoire with, like, when I was working out the softball girls. They, I want them to be able to do pull-ups.
Right.
And if they can't do a pull-ups, start with timed hangs.
Yeah.
Just jump up there and hang, and then your goal is to be able to hang there for 30 seconds.
Right.
Some of them can't hang for 5 seconds. That's hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, the stronger you get to be able to hold your weight up, then we'll eventually start seeing how far you can pull yourself up. And some of them, their goal was to get 1 pull-up from August to February, and they got it, and we celebrated that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Modified.
Right. That's Jocko Willink's entire book, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. No, Jocko wrote that Jocko wrote his book in response to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He's like, too many people in this generation are reading about this wimpy kid. He said, I want to. And his book was Diary. What was it? I got to look it up now since I mentioned it, but. I bought them from my Way of the Warrior Kid.
The Way of
The
the Warrior
Way of
Kid.
the Warrior Kid. I recommend that book to anyone who has small children. And you want, I mean, for one, people assume that Jocko is this chauvinistic, manly man. He's this dude. He's a manly man, but there's no chauvinism. There's not an ounce of chauvinism in this guy. I mean, he's not.
I've never picked that up.
No, but they assume they hear his voice, and he does the jujitsu, and he's talking about war all the time, and he's just he's just I don't know. He's a very, very great example, I think, for men in terms of being a good father and being a someone who takes responsibility for your life and your family and your children. And he's like, you know what? He said, I don't want my kids reading about a wimpy kid. I want to teach my kids how to take care of themselves, take care of other people, And it was basically, it starts out about this little kid who is a wimp, and he doesn't even know how to do a pull. His uncle comes home from the service, and he's going to stay with them at their house. And his uncle finds that this kid can't even do a pull up, and he's like, "Oh man, are you kidding me? You can't do a pull up." And so he sets a goal for him, and he says, "So by the time we go to school next year, this was the summertime. By the time we go to school next fall, you're going to be able to do 10 pull-ups." And they just worked a little bit at a time. And he went in there and he was able to impress his gym teacher by doing pull-ups. And his confidence grew, and he found that he did things like, his confidence grew, therefore he did things like, when he walked down the street, he'd pick up trash when he saw it. He would help somebody when he saw someone in need. He said, when you get stronger, it's amazing the other parts of your life it touches and motivate with the things that motivate you do in the positive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think he's onto something there. I think we're going in a direction of where we try to protect our kids a little too much, but you said it there. Our job is to prepare them for life, and life is tough, and sometimes the truth is hard, but it's necessary to present the truth to people that we care about, so that they understand, where they stand.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
That's a tough part of coaching. Sometimes everyone likes to give the positive note. Everyone likes to encourage, but sometimes it's hard to go out and let them know that, hey, no one's going to get you out of this, right, Coach? You got to get out of it yourself.
That's right. Yeah, when you got a pitcher out there and he just can't throw a strike, and you can't use any more pitchers, or else you're going to have to just forfeit the rest of the tournament.
Not show up tomorrow.
You're like, listen, son, you got to get out of this inning. And then you come back off the field and he walks 4 more, and it's pretty soon you've given up 8 runs in that inning. Yeah. Okay.
You got the fans heckling you on the sideline.
That's right. We came back and won that game, by the way.
We did.
Went undefeated that weekend.
We got it.
We did. We learned, to go back. I went back and listened to our first 3 episodes, I think. We had like a list of 7 there where we talked about what motivated us to start a podcast. You and I had been talking about player development, and helping to just kind of create a different mindset for youth ball and work, focus on development more than trophies and things like that, and not spending so much money on tournaments and all that. And so we went into this idea of creating a team so that we might be able to do that. And as it turned out, we actually played in quite a few tournaments.
We did,
and we had some really good times with some home round robins, though. We did. If you go back and listen to our goal I was pretty proud of that, actually. For our goal for running a home, like a round robin in your own hometown, or pick a field, a high school field or whatever, I think we did that pretty well. We all took infield, outfield. We everybody got to play each other, and those were probably the funnest weekends for me this past summer. But then we also said we wanted to play in a few tournaments too, to give them that experience and to see to see what that feels like. That's a little more pressure, I think, when you go to the tournaments. And we took some licks.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Got some good experience there, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Learned a little.
Yes, we did.
Learned a lot, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were times, and I know you probably felt the same way. There were times throughout the summer that I thought to myself, did we make a mistake here? Are these kids just not ready for this kind of, I mean.
Well, yeah. And I know, one big obstacle that we had, and it's just, I mean, it is what it is. We played in 15U tournaments, but we were
Truly,
half of us were a 14U team.
With a 13U
with
kid
a 13U kid. And, it's not that there's an element of skill that you're kind of behind already on that, but it's just it's maturity, it's experience. It's there's an additional level of confidence in a 15-year-old than there is a 14-year-old. It adds up. It's
body type.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
Kids, because when you're in 15U tournaments, you're playing against kids that were 15 by the time April 30th rolled around.
Right.
Well, they may have turned 16 on May 5th, and I was talking to a kid in July when we were playing pretty darn good team from West Virginia we were playing, and he was on third base. He looked like Noah Syndergaard. I mean, he was a mammoth. And I said, so how most of the kids on your team, how old are they? He goes, well, I'm 16. He said, I drove here today. And I went,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that make you feel, Bobby? Right. I told one coach that we had a 13-year-old on our team, and Bobby goes, "Coach, I'm 14 now." Like, I get that, but you're technically you could play 13U ball. Yeah. He was offended that I called him a 13-year-old. So
yeah, I could see that out of him. Bobby came on,
man.
this season.
Yeah, I was proud of all of our kids. Really, I mean. I guess that's the thing that I wanted to mention here is, we took some licks. We had a lot of losses in terms of the scoreboard, but I think we had a lot of wins if you don't look at the scoreboard and you think about the game of baseball. Because I think one of the things that we need to do, and particularly we live in an area, I think, where kids love to play baseball, and they love it, but I don't even know if it's they've been overcoached or what it is. I find that the IQ level, the baseball IQ tends to be a little low right now. And
instinct.
And so you lack the instinct. And I think one of the goals was to kind of help with that, or to help them realize that there are some important aspects of the game that aren't directly related to what you're doing at that time, but they will influence the other parts of the game. Like I'll use your son as an example. I think I texted you and said that's a win, because he's a catcher, and early in the season, like his first couple practices with us, I was constantly on him for taking his time, putting his gear on, right, and things like that, and not hustling, not putting it on fast or whatever. And then when you get out there, take command, right? Take command. Tell the pitcher you got 5. Have him throw a fastball, a couple fastballs, curveball, change, another fastball, then let him know when it's his 5th pitch. Make a good hard pitch out, and you look down, and you shout 2, and you make a good hard throw down there. I think you said you guys were watching like a Legion game or something, and or a high school aged game. I don't know what it was, but you said Jake saw that the catcher was taking too long. He wasn't the first one on the field. That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't the first one on the field. He said Jake just said his pitcher's waiting on the catcher. He's like, this guy's got to speed up. And I remember the first time I told Jake, you're always the first guy on the field. And when he wasn't, I got in his craw a little bit. And I could see the look he gave me, like everybody does, like, why is this important, right? But then he took that to heart. And for 3/4 of the summer, that's his whole demeanor about the position of catcher was different. And I think him noticing it in somebody else and saying, that doesn't look very good, was like, that's a win right there.
Yeah, definitely.
He gets it now.
Well, yeah. And talk about energy.
Yeah.
I know you've made this point that the catcher is the one player on the field that the other 8 defensive players
are all looking at on every pitch.
Yeah. So they'll draw that energy from the catcher, and it could be positive energy, it could be negative energy. If your catcher's back there, loafing around and kind of working slow, then that kind of sets the tone for the defense too. So that's why it's important. It's applicable.
It is. It's an intangible aspect that that we don't realize is actually so very. It's a third person thing that affects everybody in the first person. I don't know. It's a weird thing because you don't realize if you're the shortstop or the center fielder or the second baseman, you're out there, you don't realize the reason why the energy level is low necessarily.
Yes.
But there's a good chance the reason why it is because the guy that you see on every pitch is sagging his shoulders, or he's looking at the pitcher and he's frustrated at the pitcher because the pitcher's not throwing strikes, or he's walking back to get the ball at the backstop, or he's a catcher that's not doing that, their team. I'll tell you an example that I'll use. I don't know if you watched any of the Little League World Series.
Yeah, we've been
but that
watching
West
that.
Texas team, I can't remember the girl's name, but they have a girl on the team who catches, she pitches, and I'd say she's the energy bringer on that team. When she was
seen her.
the first game that I saw them play, she was behind the plate catching, and every pitch that was a strike that she spotted and it was a strike, and the umpire called, she would like point to the pitcher and be like, yeah, and then throw the ball back to him. I tell you what, I'm watching. So our camera angle is from behind the pitcher, and I'm watching it. I'm like going, yeah. Like if I'm pitching, that's pumping you up. That's
Right.
making you feel good, right? And if he threw a ball, she wasn't like, she just threw it back to him, right? She wasn't like, come on, man, throw strikes, right? But every strike that kid threw, she was pumping the fist and saying, probably saying, yeah, there you go, great job. And then on a strikeout, it was like Yadier Molina, right? Throwing the ball down the third and getting them fired up. And that team played with energy, incredible energy. And it may have just been that all those kids just have energy all the time.
Yeah.
But I bet you if you put a catcher back there that does the opposite of that, you wouldn't see the same kind of energy in the rest of those 8 players out there.
You're probably right.
And you probably wouldn't see as many strikes out of the pitcher.
Yeah.
That is the most important position on the field.
They probably play better defensively.
Yes.
They don't make as
Yeah.
many errors. They don't
You're
make as
loose.
many mental mistakes. They're not
Absolutely.
they're not on the field as long.
Yes.
That all
makes a big
that
difference.
all works together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we learned a lot in that sense in terms of what a win is and a loss is. I think the kids became better baseball players. I
And
really do.
that's what true development is. It's not,
It is.
You can't base it on wins and losses,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. So when you look at it, did we accomplish all the things that we said we thought a player development program would do? No, probably not.
Right.
But I think we did we made some steps in the right direction.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think so. I feel good about it. With what we did.
Yeah, me too.
So hopefully we get to do it
But
again.
yeah, hopefully, and it's not up to us, right?
Right.
If kids want to do it and their families want to do it, we'll do it again. But we'll do our best to set the table. But they got to come and eat.
Yeah, the door's open.
It is
The dinner
whatever
bell,
metaphor you want to
the
use.
dinner bell's ringing.
That's right. That's right. You can't make them eat, but you can sure set a nice looking table
For sure.
Well, what do you think? We've been talking for about 35 minutes or so, 40 minutes here. What do you think? Maybe we should set some goals here for season 5. What do you think about that?
For the podcast.
Yeah. What are some goals? Like, what have you thought about? Some goals that you think we should have in this podcast? Let me give an example. Well, like we always talk about how we want guests, right?
Yeah.
And I think when we first went remote, it was fairly easy because everybody was at home and looking for something to do.
True.
And so we emailed a few people, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll come on your podcast," right? And so that was. But then we kind of got away from it for a while. I would like to set a goal for us to have more guests more often,
Yeah.
if that's what our listeners want. Which maybe that's there you go. There's a goal to be a more listener-driven podcast.
Yeah, I always wonder about that and exactly what people would like to hear. I heard from this individual I referenced earlier that just kind of like to hear our voices, and that's an easy one.
I guess we could just sing. We could sing some songs.
I don't think anybody wants that for sure.
Then they would
Nobody
not want
wants
to
me
hear the
sing.
voices.
Yes, only a few people have heard me sing, especially with this type of equipment in front of me.
I'm going to post the link to your church's stream where you lead worship,
Why would you do that?
so people can. No, I'm teasing.
I don't
People
mind.
are like, I want to hear him sing.
Oh, you can definitely hear me singing that. You learned that you should not stand so.
Well, they
close
had a
to the mic.
shotgun mic there. It doesn't matter where you stand. When they got a shot, your church has a shotgun. They got a good setup. They got a shotgun mic like 3 feet away from you. It's you can hear you very well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Did you never go back and watch it?
No, I didn't go back and watch it. No, I didn't go back and watch it.
I had you on the big screen.
Did you?
Yeah, one time.
That was the.
It was a recording.
Yeah. It was the monk sermon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was.
So we talked about that.
Yeah,
a
we
little
did.
bit on
We did.
previous episode. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I like involvement. I would like, this isn't a goal that necessarily we could do on our own, but I would like a little bit more interaction from the people that listen to us and want to know, what they want to hear. And I guess that kind of does include guests. And, when we talk about guests,
doesn't have to be famous.
No.
Right? Yeah.
No, because here's the thing. Most people that play these games that we talk about aren't.
Yeah.
Right? We've said this before, like the Major League sports, sometimes we get so wrapped up in the fact, sometimes when people say baseball, they think of Major League Baseball, and that's erroneous. Major League Baseball can go away.
So much bigger
The
than Major
game
League Baseball.
will persist.
Yeah.
So it's not. Those are the exception to the rule. Those are the outliers. This podcast is about what I would say you could use the word regular. Normal.
The little people.
Yeah.
I'm with you. That you're onto something there. We're not a podcast for college coaches probably or professional people. We're for the little guy.
Yeah.
We're for the people that are like you and me. They're just out there doing it, either high school, coaching a high school team, coaching youth teams or whatever. And I've actually found that to be true with myself in the things that I'm choosing to listen to lately. It's interesting because I've always, there are a lot of coaching podcasts coming up now, a lot of baseball, skills and, different kinds of things. Here's some ways to approach pitching and things like that. And, there were only a handful of them for a while. And so the ones that were out there, ABCA podcast, things like that, they get all these big time coaches on there.
Right.
And they talk about, they've got really great content. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm soaking all that in as well. The problem is it's not very relatable to who I am, to my program,
That's a
to
great
where I
point.
coach.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, they've got all kinds of resources. They've got all kinds of coaches. That's your full-time job. Yeah, you can easily do that. But the podcast that I'm finding that I really enjoy listening to right now, I've gone out and just searched like ones that are about coaching youth baseball, things like that. I mean, even if it's talking about little kids, because I know that the people that are down there, those are they're doing things more like they're using fields that don't have an L screen. So what do you do?
Yeah.
Right? They're using fields that don't have a cage. So what do you do? I mean, that's what I want to know. That's what I want to hear.
Sure. And
Things
not
like
only that, but those little people are the most important people to the game.
Yes, they are.
If you don't have a bunch of those little people, the future of the game don't look great. So that's a rec league golden rule there. Everyone moans and I do too about T-ball. I'm not a big fan of it, and I guess the setup is a different story. But if you don't have a big group of T-ball players in your league, it doesn't look good for your league. Because those are the kids that are going to come up and make your 8U teams and your 10U teams and so on and so forth. So they're important. It's kind of like the JV varsity discussion. And knowing how important you're having and nurturing and developing a JV program is within your program, regardless of what sport it is.
Yeah.
It's very important. You can't overlook that. I think it's very easy to do, and a lot of coaches do it. And it's
Right.
I think I can make a pretty strong argument that it's a pretty big mistake. So I would welcome that discussion. But the little people are important.
It is. Yeah. Swinging right back around to your point. The guests that we're looking for, we'll bring in some nice guests too. I think
We've had some really good guests.
Yeah. And I think we have the opportunity to have some additional really good guests here in the coming months as well. But what about just somebody who coaches a youth football team? Right,
Yeah.
Some guy who referees or and officiates in the Hocking Valley Basketball League, youth league. Let's get them in here and talk about what it's like to run up and down the court and have. What's that sound like? And just give us an example of what. I mean, just let's get a feel for what is actually happening in the world that you and I talk about all the time. Because I think we can. Sometimes it's really easy for podcasts like this to be very idealistic.
Yeah.
right? I mean, well, yeah, this is what we should all do. And I know sometimes, I'll even talk about, the ideal practice plan or the ideal, and not everybody has the same resources to be able to do all those things, right? Yeah. If you're the only coach there, you can't do all the things I talk about in some of those practice plans. And so I think sometimes we need to hear from people who are realistic, not necessarily idealistic, but okay, yeah, I can relate to that. I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I like that. Maybe it'll spread a little bit of perspective to everyone else listening and give us a better picture, a better understanding of what everyone sees. I think that's a problem we have, is that we have a hard time seeing the game, or regardless of what sport it is, from other people's eyes, and know what it means to them, how it makes them feel throughout, and maybe some of the things that they deal with that doesn't really show up, and that no one really talks about.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Might be something that.
Yeah. So if any of you, so let's say you're listening to this right now and you're like, well, I guess I could be a guest, right? Or I have an idea. I have an idea for someone that you guys should have on, or I have an idea for a topic that maybe you should talk about. There are ways to get a hold of us that we really rarely talk about on this. We got to get better at that. So if you want to just reach out to us with anything, one, if you know us, you know how to get a hold of us. But if you don't know us, then you can get a hold of us easily on Twitter at The Coaching Life. So the @ symbol and The Coaching Life. That's our Twitter handle. And then if you want to email us, if you'd prefer to email, it's thecoachinglifepodcast@gmail. I know it's long, but it's not hard to remember. thecoachinglifepodcast@gmail.com. And we've never really said much about leave a review and things like that, but it'd be helpful. And the reason why I think that's important, I've learned a little bit about podcasting as well over the last couple of years. It's important to leave reviews for podcasts that you really like, that you want to see grow, that you think other people will enjoy and benefit from. Because the more reviews you get, the more the higher up your podcast shows in search engines and things like that. And so you probably know how that works more than I do, but what I've learned is that if they listen to podcast on Apple Podcasts, for example, and they give a certain number of stars and then actually leave a review, then after a while, I think Apple recognizes, okay, this podcast is being listened to and actually enjoyed, and so we're going to bump it up. And if you actually look up the Coaching Life podcast like in Overcast right now, I think ours, when we first started this, you couldn't find it. You had to type it exactly right, and then maybe like yours and mine, like Pat and Chris, and then it would show up. You just type in the Coaching Life podcast right now. There are a lot of podcasts called the Coaching Life podcast. I think ours shows up in the top 20 or so of those. So
Good
yeah,
deal.
you can actually find it.
How many reviews do we have?
I have no idea. I actually haven't even looked. Yeah. But I do know that I do know that it's important, and I hear
It's metadata.
I hear people say it all the time at the end of their shows, like, "Hey, make sure you subscribe and leave a review, because that really helps others to get the podcast out." And I think maybe we need to, if we really are committed to it, which I think we are.
Yeah.
We've come back after a sabbatical, right?
Yes.
Then we need to put that out there of hey, if you really like the podcast, then take a minute and review it, and then take a minute to get in touch with us as well.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair, most of the time when they're kind of promoting the podcast like that, it's a monetary thing. They know.
Yeah.
But for us,
It's
that's
definitely
not the
not.
case.
Yeah.
Until we get hired by ESPN, we're not really expecting to make much money off this endeavor. So
That's true.
We've got some time to just provide free content. So send us those reviews and interact with us a little bit. We'd appreciate it.
Yes, we would. We would. So are you here for the rest? You and I are going to go get lunch, right?
We're gonna
Get some B-dubs here. Yeah. But you dress for work though.
I did. I didn't know. I wasn't for sure what the
I am too.
expectation was.
Yeah. Well, we took a photo right in the middle of the podcast, so we could show everybody.
Yeah, I got one coming in the door here.
Oh, cool.
Actually, I put it on Snapchat.
It's already out there.
It's-
But then it leaves, doesn't it? It's a Snapchat.
After
leave?
a while, yeah, I can save it.
I don't know the Snapchat very well. I
have a love or hate relationship with Snapchat.
With Snapchat?
There's some people on there that I talk to that I really enjoy talking to, but it's one of those. It's anything like social media. I just downloaded TikTok the other day. Do you do TikTok?
It's on my phone.
Yeah.
I don't want to like it.
I know.
But I know that it's really hot right now, and so I've opened it up. And the reason why I opened up is because Instagram has a similar thing called Reels. TikTok was first, I think, then Instagram started doing it. But Instagram has always been a photo app, photo social media. But then they do something called Reels, which is basically identical to TikTok.
Okay.
And so I know exactly what a TikTok is and what you know what I found. It's not as bad as I thought. It really isn't.
I opened this app.
It's time consuming. I can see how it can suck the life out of it.
And that's the first thing that I noticed that I recognize, and I'm like, I don't want this. This is crazy.
Me too.
Why would I just sit here and flip through videos?
If you're undisciplined,
and people tell me, like my kids, people I talk to that do this, they're like, yeah, we'll just flip through until and I'm like, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. You know what I thought? That's what I do on YouTube every night. I do the same thing on YouTube.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
They have created an app that is just like the YouTube rabbit hole.
It is.
All the little recommended videos on the right-hand column.
Yeah.
That's exactly what TikTok is.
And it's fast. You don't have to wait for it to load. It's just like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. And some of them are ridiculous. They're like, but I think the more you stay on one to watch the whole thing, the more that the app sort of knows what you like.
Oh, really?
It's got to be, because I've noticed that.
I'm only following 30 people, but I tell you,
I don't follow anybody. You can follow people.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you follow. You can, and that actually
that
follow
helps
people
to create your preferences.
Right.
I need to do that.
Yeah. So I follow.
Actually, I don't. I don't want to use this.
This was good though. I followed Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
Oh yeah.
I love that guy, and
he needs to run for president.
He does. Yes. He was driving.
I'll tell you something. If he runs for president, sorry to get you off this. I heard Jocko Willink on the Joe Rogan show, because Joe Rogan says, Jocko, you got to run for president. He's like, no. And then they started talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And Jocko says, I'll tell you what, if Dwayne runs and he wants me to be his running mate, I'll be his running mate. We'll be.
Oh, no. I didn't hear that.
Imagine that ticket right now.
Yes.
And I don't agree with everything Dwayne Johnson, I don't agree with all his politics, but I agree with a lot of it.
Just the person, though, right?
It's the person. It's the character that and I don't care what Jocko's politics are. I got a sense that I kind of know what they are. He's pretty much libertarian, but he's never said it. But I know that guy would do a great job, because he's an owner. He's an extreme ownership guy. He wrote the Dagon book on extreme ownership.
So we got it. We have. That's the one thing we have to get away from. Talking strictly about platform and start talking about who these people are that were letting us control.
Yeah.
But, the Rock was driving through the neighborhood, and
on TikTok
he was filming himself, and he said, "There's a tour bus here," and I don't know why the tour bus would be driving through his neighborhood. Maybe to show them his house. I don't know, but he pulls up to the bus and rolls the window down and says, "Hey, anyone know where you could find the Rock?" And they just went crazy.
That's great.
And I was like, man, that is so.
Yeah. That's inspiring. It makes you smile.
And he was laughing. He was eating up. I'm like, man, that's awesome. I really like that.
Yeah.
So, how long are we in here?
Until noon.
Oh, okay. So we're good.
2 hours. Yeah, we're gonna do a 2-hour show for the very first episode of season 5.
I think it's time.
I'm getting hungry too. Yeah, but I want to say something though.
Yeah, I do too.
This is gonna be a serious statement. And I told you this the other day. We're talking about social media, and I sent you a little chunk of my sermon notes from Sunday's message, and I ended up talking about this a little bit. And not just because I talk about platformy type things. I don't actually really ever do that, but because it was relevant to what I was talking about. The story, the parable that I was preaching on was the parable that Jesus told about the two different men who stood up to pray.
Right.
Went to the temple to pray. One was a Pharisee, very religious guy, who everybody would assume, this is a good person right here. Stood up and prayed very proudly, God, I'm so thankful that I'm not like everybody else. And the tax collector, who'd be considered, about in our day, I would say we would compare in the reputation that a tax collector had in that day. In our day, we would compare it to someone who probably sells drugs to kids.
Yeah,
they were extortionists. People hated them.
Yep.
And this guy recognized his fault. He recognized what was going on in his life, and he walked in, and his head held low, bowed low, very humbly, saying, "I don't know if you got any mercy for me, God, but I need it if you got it." And Jesus said, "I tell you what, today that person left justified while the religious guy was unrighteous.
Yeah.
And I talked about, the difference between how to be righteous, right? And it has nothing to do with what you do. I mean, this guy stood up and it was a look at me prayer. And it just got me thinking about social media. What has happened in our society where we are so consumed? I mean, you think about it. I thought, why do I post what I post on social media? And I actually haven't done a whole lot on it here this summer. Even the things that I post that are like encouraging. I mean, I don't get involved in a lot of conversations, so I don't comment on hardly anything. But I'll post something that's like a positive thought or encouragement. But even that, in the back of my mind, I want people to notice it.
Yeah.
I do go back and see how many people have liked this.
Yep.
How many retweets has it had? So 90% of the things, I'm throwing a number out there. It's not. I don't know. This is not science. 90% of the things, maybe it is science today. Who knows? Who knows what science
There's
is?
a science around it.
90% of the things that are posted, approximately, on sites like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, probably too, they're posted because we want people to judge us.
Yeah.
We're so concerned about what people think about us that we're like, look at what I've done, right? Look at what I'm doing. Look at me. Agree with me. Like, comment, and subscribe, right? And I'm as guilty as anyone about this, but I'm here to say that I am coming to believe that the greatest toxicity and downfall of the day that we live in right now is the invention of social media. I know it does a lot of good, and I know that people will be like, it's done so much good. And I agree with that. Like, I agree with both of those things, right? I talked about how it's a pharmakon. Pharmakon is a Greek word, and it's a Greek word that actually stands for three meanings. Or in Greek critical theory and philosophy, a pharmakon is a composite of three meanings: remedy, poison, and scapegoat. And social media is both of those things. It can be a remedy, but it can also be a poison. It's like a drug, pharmakon, a drug, a same drug that you take to keep yourself alive. If I were to take those, I don't know if you take drugs, but if I were to take those, it'd kill me, right? I mean, and I think fire is a really good example of that. I enjoy fire. I know you're not a big backyard fire guy, but I like
the smell.
I like the fire pit because I like the smell. I like the the just sitting around on a cool fall evening, or even after Christmas dinner, sitting in your living room with a fire crackling in the fireplace, and just enjoying the warmth of it, the beauty, the relaxation, the ambiance of it. But you take one spark of that fire and have it pop out 3 feet into your living room, and then all of a sudden it starts spreading. How much do you like fire now?
Right.
It's different. And I really believe, I'm of the opinion that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just all social media, whatever people are into, Reddit, internet stuff that's just toxic, have become like a fire in the middle of our living rooms, in the middle of our homes, and it's just burning out of control. Yeah, it's killing us. It's absolutely killing people, and you don't notice it until you get away from it a little bit, and you realize how much life is worth living without it.
That's great stuff. I think, that makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to say something too, and it really ties into that. And I think when you're talking about social media, the problem is it displaces us from reality. And use 90%. I would say 90% of the posts are probably a form of everything's positive, right? When people are posting on social media, they're always smiling.
Depending on the platform.
Well, that's true. That's true. But it's and I guess it could be from a negative point of view too. But I think
it's extreme one way or the other.
Right. And that's not really life. And one thing I know, I've talked about it on the podcast for 18 months now. And it came to me the other day, and I was just like, wow, I was really naive. And it was talking about this pandemic and my desire that I have for the pandemic to be over. And we go up and we go down, and there's changes every day, and I just kept clinging to that. And I've said it, it'd be fun. We could do the I Love Baker compilation that you put through. We could do a day selection of me predicting when this pandemic was going to end. And I think it's
coming, folks. It's coming. You kept saying that, May.
Right, and the thing is, it's like because we want this the pain to end, right? We want the aggravation and the frustration to end. But the fact is, that's life.
Yeah.
Right? That challenge and struggle.
It's not going to end.
It is normal. We are
Right.
living in
That
a
is
normal time. Are we dealing with an abnormal challenge? Yeah, but that every day. I guarantee this, folks, and it dawned on me over the summer because I had some experiences in my life that I had to reflect on some things and kind of figure things out. We can take this pandemic away. Everyone out there listening, if you're struggling with the pandemic, you're having a hard time, it can go away. But I promise you this, there's going to be something the next day that's going to hit us just as hard, that we got to deal with, that we got to work through.
Yes.
And it's not about the end of a challenge. It's about, it's about responding to it, how we handle it.
How are you going? Yeah.
That's life.
Going through it.
That's how we deal with it.
The obstacle is the way, right?
Yes. Great. It's the process, right? It's the journey.
Yeah.
And when we get to a point that we don't have any problems in our life, you know where we're at?
Heaven.
That's where we're not here anymore. And that's the parking lot realization.
Yeah.
There's no parking. What a great feeling.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we allow these things to build on us and to wear on us, and honestly, the only thing we have is the moment.
Right.
So make the moment the best you can go, and go from there. We're going to get through this pandemic.
And one way or another, we're going to get through it by learning to walk through it every day.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Or it's going to end.
Yeah. It's just a challenge.
Exactly.
I'm not going to make any more predictions of when we're going to get back to normal.
Because
we're normal.
Because we're normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day.
We are. Yeah. I think that's a good wrap.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back. Yep. Welcome back.
We're planning on being here every week now.
We're committed. We're on the schedule.
Yes.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
We'll be talking.
Well, everybody, share this with somebody that you love, or share it with somebody you hate, depending on your perspective of what we just said today.
Yeah, and email us and tell us you love us, or email us and tell us you hate us.
We'll take both. Yeah, we'll take both. Right?
Any type of guest, too.
Any type of guest. Right. Hey, guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
See you, everyone.